All right, today as part of the Tampa Explained series, we are going to talk about the north suburbs. Here we go. I'm Sam, and thanks for coming by the Living in Tampa channel, where every single week we make videos about what it's like to live and move to the Tampa, Florida area. If that's something you want to follow along with, don't forget to subscribe. I'm also a licensed realtor in the state of Florida, so if you have any real estate specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out. My phone number and email are right there on the screen and in the description down below. All right, let's get into it. North suburbs. Actually, so right now it's October, early October, but over the summer, my average caller, probably more than half of my calls, were people calling from New Jersey asking about Wesley Chapel. These neighborhoods did such great marketing that everyone was curious about them. And I also think some of these neighborhoods were interesting, like Epperson with this crystal lagoon that they call it, this big freshwater pool. These were really interesting and really good to put in videos or thumbnails. You know how it is. They were eye-catching. But it's not just because of those communities that people are asking about the north suburbs. There's a lot of reasons, and we're going to get into all of those. First of all, the criteria for the Tampa Explained series is proximity, style, size, and cost. And we're going to go through each of those details related to the north suburb area of Tampa. Tampa is a really big city, but the Tampa proper area is only about 400,000 people, and that's this shape right here. Everything around that is suburbs, unincorporated parts of the county. Some of those are towns, some are not. And then over on the near the beach, it's actually a different county, and that's Pinellas County. But right now we're just going to focus on the north suburbs. If you've missed any of the other Tampa Explained videos, they are linked above. Check those out. Let's start by looking at the area. When I'm talking about the north suburbs, I'm talking about this area right here. And one of the reasons that this is the north suburbs is because you can live in this area and still commute to Tampa somewhat easily. And that is kind of why I've defined this boundary. We'll get into some of the areas that kind of make up this outlying area, this Pasco County area in general on the west side and north side. But it's really these towns here in the middle that make up the north suburbs of the Tampa area. Also, after being about 60 videos into this channel and hundreds of people have contacted me, I kind of know the questions that a lot of people have and the areas that a lot of people are asking about. And there are a few different reasons why people are asking about these specific areas. But along the east side of this boundary is Wesley Chapel, very popular area. Along the north side, there's a couple other little small towns like Dade City and San Antonio, but this is mostly just the border of Pasco County up here. On the west side, we have the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll hit on those communities as well. And then on the south side, it's the southern border of Pasco County with Caudle and Lutz kind of overlapping that county line. Okay, let's jump right into the criteria. Proximity to start out. Because there are a lot of ways to access the city from this area, a lot of roads that go north and south into Wesley Chapel, Lutz, Land O'Lakes area, this area is still pretty accessible to the city. It's also very accessible to highways that lead to other parts of the state, like Interstate 75 that goes north and can get you all the way to the west side of Orlando. I mean, you still have to take another road to get into Orlando, but it gets you right up to that area. One of the features that's important about this area to people is that it does have some more rural areas. You know, areas that feel a little bit more outside of the city, that feel like different towns in themselves. And there's a lot of those areas in this north suburbs area. When it comes to proximity to shopping, there is a lot of shopping in this area, with the Tampa Premium Outlets being right there on the edge of Lutz and Wesley Chapel. Then the Wiregrass Mall being on the southern side of Wesley Chapel. And then further north in Wesley Chapel, you have the Grove shopping area, which seems just like a normal shopping area that's kind of boosted up with stuff like Best Buy and World Market and Ross and that kind of typical big box stuff. But then there's also an area along the highway that they're building out of shipping containers, 35 shipping containers built into restaurants and little booths and all kinds of little stores like that. This is modeled after something similar that was built in downtown Tampa in the Channel District. That's really cool. It's called Sparkman's Wharf. If you're ever in Tampa, that's always an area I recommend checking out and getting some food. You can sit along the water. But this area up in Wesley Chapel is being modeled after that, and it's coming along very, very quickly. It looks like it will be completed soon. Even though it's very accessible to the city through all these different routes, there are some areas in this part of town that feel a lot more rural. There's a lot of conservation and preservation area. Some of this to mitigate flooding, but some of this just to maintain the natural feel of the area. So if you're wanting a little more of a natural Florida feel, this is a good area around Tampa to find that. Okay, the number 2 criteria is style. When I say style, I'm thinking of the style of the area and the style of the homes. So this area feels very suburban. I've referred to it before as like suburbs around the Dallas metro area that I've been to, like Grapevine and Colleyville. Some of these areas feel kind of like that to me. Maybe not quite as nice, but they feel very similar where they feel kind of contained. You could easily live in Wesley Chapel and never leave Wesley Chapel, if that makes sense. But you have a pretty big range of styles when it comes to homes. There has been a lot of new construction out in this area, so you have a lot of new homes, but you have older homes that were built in the 60s and 70s as well. Also, another aspect of the style in this area is you do have potential for bigger lots. Not in new construction areas, but in older construction areas where the lots were just bigger during that time. Another factor related to style is actually a little political to me. So when you look at the Tampa area of Hillsborough County, you have Pinellas County, and you have Pasco County. Hillsborough County, just like most big cities in the US, tends to be pretty liberal, so it's pretty blue. Pinellas County is often one of the indicators of how an election will go. They describe it as a purple county. It's half red, half blue. But then Pasco County is very, very red. The complexity of this Tampa area is really interesting in this way, but this Pasco County area, it tends to be a lot more conservative than the metro area of Tampa. Okay, our third criteria is size. Density in this area in general is pretty low because of all this conservation area mixed into the cities and county. As you can see here, this geographic area is pretty large, with a lot of it just uninhabited. Actually, I want to share this map right here that when I was looking up Newport Richey, trying to get the city boundary, I saw this map on Wikipedia and I thought it was really interesting. What it shows is actually incorporated cities compared to the unincorporated areas of the county. You can see how little of this county is actually incorporated into cities, with the mass majority of it being unincorporated. And you still have what are called census designated places, areas like Lutz that are not actually towns, they're actually census designated places, which is super annoying. I wish that they would make more sense of all that. So here I am trying to make sense of it. And just as a frame of reference, the population of some of these areas, Wesley Chapel being 58,000, Lutz being 22,000. And Lutz actually overlaps into Pasco County and Hillsborough County, and I couldn't get the number for Pasco Lutz, which is smaller than Hillsborough Lutz. So that 22,000 is actually Hillsborough Lutz. Cheval area is about 10,000. Land O'Lakes is about 38,000. Trinity, 11,000. Odessa, 8,000. And then a few other small towns in this area. Those are the kind of the main ones that people are often asking about. When it comes to cost in this area is quite a bit cheaper in some ways. If you're looking for a smaller house, this area gets cheaper. But when you're looking for that 4-bedroom house with a pool in a newer neighborhood, it's still very competitive and pretty expensive. So you are looking in like the low 400s instead of the mid 500s when you compare it to an area like West Chase. There are some gated communities in this area, but a lot of the neighborhoods are not gated. A lot of the gated ones are some of the newer communities in the Wesley Chapel area. And if you're curious about those specific neighborhoods, My lender actually started a YouTube channel recently, and he did a video kind of reviewing the neighborhoods in Wesley Chapel. That's linked right above if you want to check that out. He's a lifetime local and has some really good input on these neighborhoods. So when people ask me about this area, they often are drawn to it because they want to be in a newer place, but they also want really good schools. And the primary area they ask about when it comes to good schools is the Caudle area. This area right here that goes to Steinbrenner High School. So most of the houses being in the Caudle neighborhood, and then these two neighborhoods to the north of Caudle, Villa Rosa and Heritage Harbors. All very nice neighborhoods, Caudle being a little more exclusive. Okay, now I want to just kind of work our way around the map and give some information about each of these areas. And let's start over here in Wesley Chapel. Wesley Chapel is actually a really cool area. There's a lot to do out there. One of the compromises you're making by being in this area is being pretty far from the water. If you're moving here and wanting to go to the beach really regularly, it's gonna feel like quite a trek from Wesley Chapel. Wesley Chapel does flow into Zephyr Hills, this other town out here, a little bit, and Zephyr Hills is a little bit more mixed. There's a lot of cheaper housing in Zephyr Hills, and then a lot of little neighborhoods that are newly developed that feel really nice. If you're commuting to the USF area, that north side of Tampa, even Zephyr Hills is not all that far, because you can go on this other highway on the east side of this preservation area to get to the north side of town. Once you go up north from here into Dade City, which is actually the county seat for Pasco County, and then into San Antonio, Dade City is an older little town. It has some historic charm, but not much to it. San Antonio, there actually has some new development. Some of the builders have built some new communities in that area. And if you're okay with being that far away, it's an interesting little area. As you come back around to Land O'Lakes, there are actually a lot of lakes in this area, a lot of houses on lakefront. There are a few newer communities in this area, but there's a lot of diversity in like small and big housing in this area, with a lot of houses being built around these lakes. You might think that makes everything more expensive, but it really doesn't. It is kind of a strange area in that you can find older small houses that are on a big lake, but this area does feel a little more rural than Wesley Chapel and Lutz. Then as you go past the south edge of Land O'Lakes, you go into Lutz and Caudle, and I often lump these two together because they are very connected to each other. Also, some of these areas like have addresses, like the Caudle properties have Lutz addresses, but they're not in Lutz, and that's really annoying to me. It doesn't make any sense. But with the Lutz area only having 22,000 people, if you combine that with Caudle, another 10,000, so 32,000 people in this area. It's pretty scarcely populated, which is really nice. It means the neighborhoods can be a little more spread out, with a lot of them having preservation area in between them and making it feel pretty comfortable. And all these areas have kind of your typical shopping strips with grocery stores and UPS stores and all of those kind of stores. But Caudle specifically feels kind of far from stuff. It's mostly neighborhoods. There's not many restaurants or amenities in the area. Even within the neighborhoods, there's not a lot of amenities. So if you're in Caudle, it's mostly for the house and the schools. Odessa is this little area right up here, but then a lot of the houses in the Keystone area have Odessa addresses. Another one of those quirks. But Odessa is technically just this little area in Pasco County. Odessa is really cool. It has some newer development, like neighborhoods like Asturia and Starkey Ranch, that have just been completed recently. And this whole area along Highway 54 has been very developed in the past 10 years. As you go west from there into Trinity, Trinity feels very similar to Odessa. And then Trinity merges into Newport Richey. And there's very few houses that actually have Trinity addresses. As you go into the Seven Springs area and Newport Richey East, it still feels very similar to Trinity without actually being Trinity. So this Newport Richey East, I kind of made its own section because it's very different than the rest of Newport Richey. There are a lot of newer neighborhoods in this area, but some more budget-friendly neighborhoods as well. As you go over to the west, to the Gulf Coast, you have a lot of little towns, Holiday, Newport Richey, Port Richey, Hudson. A lot of these little towns have been built with very retirement focused. So a lot of the housing is pretty small, but then as the demographic has shifted a little younger, these areas have been kind of hit or miss. This area, there are some parts of it that don't feel very comfortable, but there are some that feel really, really nice. Even the downtown of Newport Richey is pretty cool. It has a river going through it. I'll have a video coming up pretty soon about this area because I think it is often overlooked. But also one of the reasons it is often overlooked is because it's a little far from Tampa. If you're gonna commute from Newport Richey to Tampa, like say to downtown, that's gonna be an hour on most days. All right, so that is the North Suburbs. I hope you found this information useful. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any real estate specific questions. My phone number and email are right there on the screen. Thanks for coming by.